Chapter 1041. A familiar scene. Along with Lord Grim's strategic ambush, Soft Mist's performance attracted quite a bit of attention too. Sun Xiang, Xiao Shiken, and Chu Fei. Let alone whether she could contend against the three allied together, just daring to block them on her own showed her courage. Besides blocking, she also showed a bit more, letting others know that she wasn't just being sent to her death. How could this type of performance not attract any attention? Even the three Team Tiny Herb players were focused on Soft Mist. In Team Happy's coordinated ambush, Soft Mist's performance was the cause, while Lord Grim's ambush was the effect. Without Soft Mist restricting the other side's main attackers, how could Lord Grim have escaped Xiao Shiken's eyes and find an opportunity to set up an ambush? Therefore, for Team Happy's tactic to work, the key component was actually Soft Mist. By standing out alone, she made Excellent Era think that she was their breakthrough point, but when Excellent Era attacked her, they realized that she wasn't that easy of a target. A short while later, Excellent Era's cleric was snatched away. Those paying attention to Happy had placed far too much focus onto Yi Shu, including Team Excellent Era. Then, for this tactic, the real ace player appeared to be Soft Mist, that lost Soft Mist who had been completely crushed by Xiao Shiken in the group arena. When the cleric Woven Shadow was snatched away, the 1v3 danger that Soft Mist had been in was instantly gone. This was relieving a besieged ally by attacking the besieger's home base. Excellent Era was already behind. They definitely couldn't let this trade happen. They needed to go rescue their cleric. Life Extinguisher's attacks were the first to arrive. He was their long-ranged character after all. He didn't need to move. He just turned around and started attacking. But then Lord Grim followed up with a toss and flung Woven Shadow, making Life Extinguisher's attacks look like fireworks raining down on Woven Shadow. When Woven Shadow landed, 1-inch Ash's ghost boundaries had already been set. Happy executed this team combo very smoothly. It looked as if they had practiced this thousands of times. This combo had been used for fighting for wild bosses in the game. Pro matches were high-level matches, but in terms of chaos, wild boss fights were on a whole new level. Team Happy's players had coordinated with each other, created opportunities for their allies, and found opportunities to attack in these wild boss fights. An important part of killing wild bosses was keeping the boss's aggro under control. Where did this aggro come from? From continuous attacks. It was only by maintaining continuous attacks could the boss's aggro be stabilized. These types of combos were what Team Happy was best at. Today, their targets had been changed from bosses to pro players, but it didn't seem like it was any different. After sending Shen Jian's successive strike away, Zhang Jiaxing's Woven Shadow was next. But this time, Excellent Era wasn't as weak. Xiao Shiken's Life Extinguisher quickly turned and switched targets. Sun Xiang and Chu Fei weren't slow either. The two characters wanted to rescue from a different direction, but Tang Ru was still there. She immediately had her Soft Mist intercept them. Sun Xiang naturally knew that drawing their focus towards Soft Mist had been a trap. Seeing that she still refused to let go, his heart blazed with anger. Get out of here. The angry Sun Zhang's explosiveness was quite frightening. Numerous chasers on one autumn leaf exploded, instantly creating an 11-hit combo. Chu Fei's combat form followed up with a Rising Dragon Soars the Sky, comboing it with Sun Zhang's burst. Soft Mist took heavy damage from this combo, but the Rising Dragon Soars the Sky also pushed her to the side. Sun Xiang had originally planned on continuing to attack Soft Mist, but then saw combat form force her back. Annoyance flickered in his heart as he had one autumn leaf chase after her, but after the first step, he suddenly remembered that rescuing their healer should be their priority. He immediately turned around and headed towards Woven Shadow. As for Chu Fei's combat form, he just quietly followed alongside one autumn leaf. Only a professional's eyes would have been able to see the significance of that Rising Dragon Soars the Sky. That Rising Dragon Soars the Sky had interrupted one autumn leaf's combo. If this was a fight against Soft Mist, it would have definitely been a mistake. It would be a good point to review after the match, but in this situation, the interrupt reminded Sun Xiang of what was more important. Sun Xiang clearly reacted to it. If not, he might really have chased after Soft Mist and delayed the rescue of their cleric. Those who weren't skilled enough might not have noticed the significance of this move. They might have just thought of it as Sun Xiang and Chu Fei working together to get rid of the obstacle in their way. Li Yibo saw one autumn leaf make that step though and sighed. Sun Xiang appears to be a bit hesitant. For such a crucial moment, he really should be more decisive, even if it ends with attacking Soft Mist. Wavering like this probably isn't a good sign. It was hard to say if Li Yibo saw through Chu Fei's move, but the point he made on his hesitation was a good point. Hesitation would affect the players and waste time. When they started rescuing their healer, if they thought, if we had gotten rid of Soft Mist before, it would just be a distraction. If a player wasn't fully focused, a player might only be able to perform at 70 to 80%. The player might miss small details and openings. They might make more mistakes too. Li Yibo's words were frightening to hear. Luckily, Excellent Era was using a shadow. Sun Shang would always have a Chu Fei alongside him. In terms of age, Sun Shang wasn't actually much older than Chu Fei. But in terms of stability, the young Chu Fei was much more steady than Sun Shang. This was also why Excellent Era chose to employ a shadow style. From a tactical perspective, making up for each other's weaknesses was very powerful. Lord Grimm snatched Woven Shadow with cloud-grasping fist and then tossed him. Although he was able to fling Woven Shadow a certain distance away, there was a limit to what he could do. In the match against Team Jade Dynasty, this move had allowed them to kill off their opponent's healer. But today, the opponent was Team Excellent Era. Once their healer was grabbed, they immediately switched targets. Previously, Happy had stopped Jade Dynasty's rescue attempts, but they had no way of stopping Excellent Era. After sending Soft Mist flying away, Sun Shang and Chu Fei reached Happy's cooking pot. Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash and Steamed Bun Invasion were currently beating up Woven Shadow. Bullying a healer was something every Glory player was good at. When One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form arrived, 1-inch Ash and Steamed Bun Invasion completely ignored them. You want to kill him before you die? It won't be that easy. Sun Shang glanced at Woven Shadow's health. It wasn't that low. Zhang Jiaxing wasn't an ordinary healer. Even without any protection, he wouldn't be bullied so easily. If he had been against two normal players in the game, it would be hard to say who would be bullying who. Zhang Jiaxing was doing his best dodging and attacking, keeping up his health. When he saw One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form arrive, he immediately started moving to regroup with them. Suddenly, he was grabbed from behind and tossed back with a back throw. Zhang Jiaxing turned and saw Lord Grimm. His mix and match equipment was always funny to look at. But in this instant, he saw this figure rush towards One Autumn Leaf in Combat Form. When he saw him fighting with his two allies, he went into a bit of a daze. It wasn't until Steamed Bun Invasion punched him did he wake up. Not anymore. This figure was no longer the one helping defend him. Zhang Jiaxing was Excellent Era's healer. When Yishu was in the team, how could there not have been many times when Yishu had come to rescue him? Even though the character was different and the equipment was different, Lord Grimm charging forward bravely reminded Zhang Jiaxing of when Yishu had been on the team and led them in battle. He had been protected by this very person. But now, this person, who he had once hoped would never fall, had become the sign of his death. Die or not die? For a moment, Zhang Jiaxing truly was in a daze. Then, he saw a field of light engulf Lord Grimm. Life extinguisher? It clearly wasn't. Excellent Era's goal was to rescue the cleric. If Life Extinguisher was going to attack, the attacks would be focused on covering up Woven Shadow. From where the light came from, it was long-range support from Dawn Rifle. At the same time, Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash laid down a ghost boundary, not for Woven Shadow, but to help Lord Grimm. Can I escape? Seeing 1-inch Ash split his attention over there, Zhang Jiaxing looked for an opening. But then Steamed Bun Invasion came out of nowhere and pinned him to the ground with a tyrannical chain punch. It looks like One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form aren't going to be able to get here. What about Life Extinguisher? Zhang Jiaxing struggled as he looked over. Life Extinguisher was on his way, but he was blocked midway. It was Soft Mist. After being sent flying away by One Autumn Leaf and Combat Form, she quickly got up. Instead of looking for revenge, she switched targets to Life Extinguisher. When Xiao Shiken saw that it was Soft Mist, his head started hurting. In the group arena, he had easily beaten Tang Ru, but he couldn't use the same strategy in the team competition. If he took Soft Mist away and kited around her, by the time he got back, there would only be a corpse left. Life Extinguisher wasn't able to reach Woven Shadow. Dawn Rifle would sometimes assist Lord Grimm, sometimes take care of Life Extinguisher, and even help out Zhang Jiaxing's Woven Shadow. This strategy. Zhang Jiaxing stared blankly. This is too familiar. Screen Cannon. The screen cannon was Team Excellent Era's most used tactic. It revolved around the launcher, who provided large-scale support. To break this tactic, restricting the launcher was crucial. However, the launcher attacked from afar. It was difficult for melee classes to go over and suppress him. And with Excellent Era's situation? Woven Shadow wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. There was no time to break through the screen cannon through traditionally methods. Breakthrough. Hurry up, Zhang Jiaxing started to panic. Chapter 1042. Box Tactics. They're actually using screen cannon. Li Yibo's words rushed out in a breath of surprise upon realizing what Team Happy was doing, but then wasn't sure what else to say. He had a strange feeling. From the performance the two teams had displayed today, overall, Happy was more like Excellent Era while Excellent Era didn't really seem like much of anything. That's right. The current Excellent Era wasn't the same Excellent Era that it used to be anymore. In the current team, only the ace character One Autumn Leaf and Cleric Woven Shadows were from the original roster. The rest of the characters had all been switched out. Originally, everyone saw Excellent Era as a team with 3 all-star players. However, from the current team build, it was clear that Su Mucheng's launcher had lost her place on the team. Was this a tactical decision? It didn't seem certain. Though the shadow play was a very good way to make up for Sun Jiang's shortcomings while utilizing his ability to the fullest, in the screen cannon strategy that Excellent Era once employed, launchers gave the best coordination and support, and that was Su Mucheng's most striking characteristic as a player. Was it that they didn't know how to coordinate after switching aces? Pro players weren't dumb. They had to determine if that strategy would still be employed and if the team still needed her support and coordination. Starting from the latter half of the last season, it was clear that Su Mucheng and Dancing Rain's role in the team had clearly changed. She and Sun Jiang's One Autumn Leaf never gained the title of best partner that they had always received before. She had become an independent offensive player. As for this season, since there were no pro matches to play, what little that made up the Challenger League wasn't enough to make Excellent Era's new methods apparent. With Xiao Shikin's mechanic and Shen Jian's striker, the Excellent Era of today held no trace of the original Team Excellent Era. On the contrary, it was Happy, despite having completely different classes from the original Excellent Era, whose performance elicited a warm familiarity in the hearts of many Excellent Era fans with this strategy they were using. Li Yibo had no words. Excellent Era's fans were at a loss, too. A team rebuilding their style from scratch wasn't enough to scare their fans away. However, when they realized that their opponent was so similar to the original team they were loyal to, the fans couldn't help but feel quite uncertain. Now, the two were personally strangling each other to death. Seeing the tactics that were most familiar to them suppressing the very team that they supported, the feelings Excellent Era's fans were in turmoil. They were watching helplessly as their Team Excellent Era was torn apart while Happy was throwing around all of their most familiar tactics. Screen Cannon, and Yi Shu stalling Chu Fei and Sun Shang. This ace player-oriented style that belongs to powerhouses, Pan Lin was detailing the tactics and strategies used by Happy. You've missed one. Tang Ru is stalling Xiao Shikin, Li Yibo brought up. Ah, this is. Pan Lin hesitated for a moment. Box 1? That's right, it's Box 1, Li Yibo confirmed with confidence. The so-called Box 1 was when a member of the team was sent to stall and harass a key member of the opposing team. That member would no longer be responsible for coordinating with the rest of the team. They only had one task, which was to prevent the target player from coordinating with the rest of their team. So long as this was accomplished, then this Box 1 would be considered successful. It didn't matter if the player couldn't kill the opponent because Box 1 targeted a player crucial to the opposing team. Through isolating that player from the opposing team, that team's formation would take a tremendous hit. That was the true tactical intent of Box 1. Using Box 1 against a master tactician like Xiao Shikin was extremely difficult. However, it was a good thing that Team Happy's goal wasn't to remove or isolate Xiao Shikin, but to stall for time. Just like how Yi Shu was fighting 1-on-2. In reality, he stood very little chance against the combination of Sun Shang and Chu Fei and could only keep being pushed back. However, what he gained was time. This was what caused Zhang Jiaxing, head raised in hope, to despair. At this rate, he'd be killed. Xiao Shiken was desperate, but he couldn't find any breakthrough points. All his hope was placed on Excellent Era's sixth member, Wang Zi. The sixth player would automatically be switched in upon a player's death. They could choose which support zone to switch in from. The reason Happy could switch out Little Cold Hands for Steam Bun Invasion to maximize DPS was because this area was close to a support zone. Wang Zi's sharpshooter should be here anytime now. Gunshot. Wang Zi's sharpshooter came just as Xiao Shiken predicted. He appeared where Wu Chen's Dawn rifle was, so his first attack was aimed at Dawn rifle. This caused a great disturbance in Happy's screen cannon. Plus, Wang Zi's class was coincidentally a sharpshooter. His attack range wasn't as good as launchers, but he didn't have as much trouble as the melee classes. Due to the gunfire aimed at him, Dawn rifle's tempo was messed up. His talent was average, so using a screen cannon under this focused fire was hard for him to maintain. Rescue the cleric, Xiao Shiken hurriedly sent out the order. Even without the screen cannon in the way, Sun Shang and Chu Fei couldn't get past Yi Shu so easily, and nor could Xiao Zikan throw Tang Ru off. After so long, the healing skills Zhang Jiaxing's Woven Shadows could use were all on cooldown, and he couldn't really do anything. He was too busy dodging attacks. All he could do was await support. Out of the three sides on Excellent Era, if any one side could break through, then the situation could be salvaged. Right now, it seemed that the newcomer Wang Zi was their best chance. The sixth member couldn't watch the match from an omniscient point of view, so in reality, he was the most confused person. His only knowledge of the situation came from what he could glean from the messages in the chat. The players on the field didn't really have any time to communicate the situation to the sixth player, who would appear on the field at an uncertain time. Usually, the first order given to the sixth player was to tell them which support zone they should switch in from upon a player's death. Entering the match then rushing over from the support zone, the first of Happy's characters Wang Zi saw was Dawn Rifle, so he quickly began to attack as he looked over the situation. Without looking he would have no idea, but now that he saw what was going on, he was shocked. His own team was scattered and their cleric was being beaten up, unprotected, and in a dire situation. Wang Zi was just thinking he should probably go rescue Woven Shadows first when Xiao Shiken gave the order. Naturally, he unhesitantly threw Dawn Rifle to the side to charge into the fray. Yet that was when Wu Chen decided he wasn't having that and Dawn Rifle began to attack Wang Zi's sharpshooter wildly, even closing in to block him with his body. Launchers didn't have that many melee skills like sharpshooters did, so closing in on a sharpshooter meant nothing good for them. However, was he at a disadvantage now? Of course not. Wang Zi just wanted to get him off his tail as fast as possible, but Wu Chen didn't care, clinging to the sharpshooter with all his might. That's right. He was a very ordinary, even closer to a below-average pro player. After his own team had disbanded, he had lost his source of bread and butter. He wasn't young anymore and he wasn't very skilled. Which real team would take him? The only teams that would were grassroots teams that couldn't even attract pro players. Yet a grassroots team really had came. Happy had eliminated them from the Challenger League and was the perpetrator of their disbandment. This team that he should hate was the one that had sent him an invite. Wu Chen accepted. He couldn't bear leaving Glory so soon. It was just that, after joining to Happy, his main job was no longer to be a player that competed in matches. That, for him, was somewhat disappointing. Though his skill wasn't at the cream of the crop level, the eagerness pros held towards competing wasn't measured by skill level. It was a good thing that Happy had registered him in the Challenger League, which made him hopeful for another chance. He hoped to compete on stage more, but he had never thought that Happy would leave the grandest stage of the Challenger League to him. When Yi Shu had told him he was going up for the finals of the Challenger League, he could barely believe his ears. After confirming things, he naturally had a few doubts. Because even though Happy might have been a grassroots team, Wu Chen knew that his skill wasn't anything special among the members of this grassroots team. Even disregarding God Yi Chu, the other newbies had potential that was better relied on. Why me? Wu Chen had questioned and Yi Shu had replied honestly, because you're a launcher. So it was because of his class. This sort of reason would disappoint most people. Everyone hoped that others would notice their talent, but not Wu Chen. Talent? After being a part of the glory circle for so long, he knew how much talent he had. With his talent alone, he wouldn't be given the chance to appear on this sort of stage at all. Because of his class. This reason wasn't anything wonderful, but it was satisfactory enough for him. Wu Chen thanked the class he had stuck with and loved for giving him such a chance in the end. Wu Chen knew with clarity that this match would probably be the last time he ever appeared in an official match, and this stage was probably the largest he could ever get. The finals of the Challenger League opponent? Excellent Era. Wu Chen had been excited and nervous. For this match, he had went and trained with all his might, doing everything he could to accomplish what was required of him. Yi Shu had already clearly informed him of what the team needed him to do, and he had trained according to these needs. Finally, the matchday had arrived. His had performed. Alright, right? Until today, the careful and precise Wu Chen had been satisfied with his performance. Now, all they had to do was kill Excellent Era's cleric, and then they would have completely tilted the scales of victory for this match. Yet, it was at such a crucial moment that Excellent Era's sixth player had arrived and tried to break through the area he was in to save their cleric. No. I won't allow this to happen. Wu Chen, who had been careful the entire match, seemed to completely lose all rationality in that moment. He used a fighting style that should never appear on a launcher and stuck to this sharpshooter like gum. His mind had mostly blanked. All he knew was that he had to stop this person to assure victory in this match. Wu Chen, this Wu Chen, a player who should have been easy to see through for Li Yibo, was now someone whose actions had made Li Yibo speechless. His current actions weren't something that was for show, it was ugly, it had no skill to it. Is this Box 2? Pan Lin suddenly asked. Box 2? Li Yibo was stunned. Okay, from some perspectives, this could be counted as a Box 2, but Wu Chen's performance really was rather 2**. Yet Wang Zi's sharpshooter really had been stalled by him. It's over, Li Yibo sighed, shaking his head. Team Excellent Era, Zhang Jiaxing's cleric, Woven Shadows, had been eliminated from the match. Chapter 1043. Regarded as helpless grass. In the audience, Seven Field and his group were clapping until their palms were swollen. Do you see that? That's our happy. Seven Field strained his throat, yelling at the Excellent Era fans surrounding him. Seven Field was usually a rather calm person, but in this moment he could no longer control his excitement. Was Excellent Era strong? Yes, they were, but in this match, it was Happy that was suppressing Excellent Era. From the beginning, they had been leading Excellent Era around by the nose. Seven Field's voice was already rather raspy. Not just him, but all 53 Happy Guild members that lived in City B, who came to cheer Happy on, were all losing their voices from yelling. This was because compared to the thousands of Excellent Era fans here, their 53 was negligible. Yet in this moment, they had the upper hand because their team was supporting them. The cleric had even been killed. Anyone who knew Glory would know that in this situation, there was no optimism left to be had. Faced with Seven Field's open taunting, the Excellent Era fans had nothing they could use as a response. And Seven Fields only had one disappointment in that moment, which was, the name Happy really was too ordinary. It didn't feel special, being yelled out. The healer, wiped out. Team Excellent Era's cleric Woven Shadow has been killed and player Zhang Jiaxing has left the match. In the finals of the Challenger League, Excellent Era is in a dire situation. Pan Lin was also yelling in the live broadcast. As the commentator of the broadcast, he wasn't biased to either side. What he hoped to see was a spectacular performance. The biggest point of drama about this match, apart from Yi Shu versus Excellent Era, was to see if a dark horse would appear. And now, the situation of the match was obviously tilting in Happy's favor. This caused the commentators, who were looking for drama, to become excited. According to the TV audience rating department, the view count for this match suddenly skyrocketed. This was evidently because Happy had killed the cleric Woven Shadow. Without a healer, the scales of victory had tilted sharply. The Glory players that heard of this would probably all turn on a TV or switch channels to watch this match that originally held no suspense. Excellent Era's competition booth. Zhang Jiaxing, having left the match, seemed to lose all strength, slumping in his seat. Now, he was able to watch the match from an omniscient view, but how would this match go? He found himself almost afraid to watch. He couldn't help but think, what would it be like if Excellent Era was stopped here and couldn't return to the Alliance, forced to participate in this Challenger League for another year? It definitely wasn't just him that was worrying about this. Just as Woven Shadow's health fell to zero, like a bolt of lightning, this thought surfaced in the minds of almost all of Excellent Era's players, the players off stage and the players on stage alike. Many people had already glanced discreetly at boss Dao Zan, and they found that the boss's eyebrow kept twitching. He, too, had long since lost the calm he usually had. In the field, Excellent Era only had 4 people left in total and no healer. Focus fire on the launcher. In the moment Woven Shadow fell, Xiao Shiken gave a new order. He knew that he couldn't save Woven Shadow anymore. The only one that had hope of breaking through was Wang Zi, and he had been blocked by Wu Chen's reckless and wild actions. However, this desperate recklessness meant that he was more or less using Dawn Rifle's life to block Wang Zi. He used Dawn Rifle's body to block shot after shot of Wang Zi's sharpshooter. No matter how strong a character was, they couldn't afford to be a meat shield like that. In that moment, Wu Chen had evidently hardened his heart and prepared to sacrifice his own character. Someone who no longer cared about their own life was always the scariest. Wang Zi had been stalled by Wu Chen in that state, and the shots and blows he had made had all mercilessly struck Dawn Rifle. Wu Chen didn't make any movements to dodge, afraid that Wang Zi might manage to grasp an opening. Just like that, he managed to stall Wang Zi's sharpshooter by brute force, but also sentenced Dawn Rifle to his death. Xiao Shiken had a clear view. They might not have a healer right now, but Happy currently didn't have one either. They needed to take this chance to barrage the other side with attacks and kill off as many of their characters as possible. The longer they stalled, the worse off they would be, with their lack of a healer. In this situation, it wasn't a good idea to stall the opponent's ace, so Xiao Shiken swiftly gave an order, getting Sun Shang and Chu Fei to switch targets and wipe out Dawn Rifle, who only had 30% of his health left after the beating he received from Wang Zi. This was because he saw 1-inch Ash and Steam Bun Invasion rushing to support Dawn Rifle after finishing Woven Shadow off. He couldn't let their plans come through again. Both sides were fighting to get there first. However, Sun Shang and Chu Fei's charge against Yi Shu and Xiao Shiken's attempts to throw off Tang Ru had been happening for a while already. It wasn't that they couldn't. It was just that they didn't have enough time to save Woven Shadow. Now, both sides broke through and immediately focused their attacks on Wu Chen's Dawn Rifle. Their sudden change in rhythm finally displayed the airs a powerhouse team like theirs should have. Steamed Bun Invasion and 1-inch Ash weren't slow either, but they weren't healers and could only attack to try and suppress their opponent's offense. Excellent Era, without their healer, aimed to finish things as fast as possible and didn't methodically exchange blows with Happy. When they needed to storm their opponents, they would be willing to trade some blood even without their healer. One Wave Rush. Excellent Era's 4 characters ignored everything else and focused on unleashing a torrent of attacks, crushing Wu Chen's Dawn Rifle and instantly managing to close in on Happy by a player. Happy's cleric Little Cold Hands was automatically switched in, but needed time to arrive from the support zones. During this time, the two sides were fighting 4-on-4, equal in numbers. The audience suddenly realized that Excellent Era didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. On Happy's side, only Steamed Bun Invasion and 1-inch Ash were in a relatively good state. Yi Shu's Lord Grim had already fought Sun Shang and Chu Fei while alone twice. His 1 versus 2 fight had a cost. The damage he had dealt to 1 Autumn Leaf in combat form was nothing compared to the damage he had taken from the 2. The current Lord Grim only had 70% of his health left. Tang Ru's Soft Mist was in a far worse condition though. Before, she had courageously taken on Sun Shang, Chu Fei and Xiao Shiken's charge alone and had already lost a lot of health. Then, she had gone to block Sun Shang and Chu Fei before being sent flying and switching to stall Life Extinguisher. Through all of this, the damage she had taken far exceeded the damage she had dealt. Currently, Soft Mist only had 20% of her health left, not even as much as Dawn Rifle. It was just that Xiao Shiken had placed heavy importance on getting rid of the tactical advantage Dawn Rifle had provided for Happy and named him to be the first target. After their success, the 4 Excellent Era members charged for Soft Mist at once. Fast. That was what everyone thought. After their cleric was killed, Team Excellent Era didn't dawdle and instead immediately increased their rhythm, swiftly focusing their fire on and wiping Dawn Rifle off the field, then charged at Soft Mist hoping for another one-wave rush. I never expected that Team Excellent Era would fight more wildly after their cleric was killed, Pan Lin said, stunned. Happy's tactics haven't been laid out very smoothly, it seems. Excellent Era storming Dawn Rifle, Steam Bun invasion, and 1-inch Ash running to support, this sort of natural instinct lost them the initiative they had for the majority of the match. Seems like they really are still too young. Look at Xiao Shiken. When Woven Shadows was about to be killed, he had already given the order to focus their fire on Dawn Rifle instead. This sort of rhythm is something Happy can learn from. Then how do you think Happy should deal with this? Pan Lin asked. Support Lord Grimm or Soft Mist, continuing to draw out the situation where they outnumber Excellent Era and trading with them. When at an advantage in numbers, this sort of trade would put a great amount of pressure on Excellent Era and Happy could continue to keep hold of the initiative. Yet now, the match is in Excellent Era's control again. I think Yi Shu is probably regretting things now. He should have done the same thing as Xiao Shiken and gave his team members orders beforehand. Happy's members are younger, more inexperienced, they need his guidance more, Li Yibo said. He might not have had the time to do so, when facing Sun Shang and Chu Fei alone, Pan Lin suggested. That's true. Sun Shang and Chu Fei have been very aggressive in these fights, Li Yibo nodded. In any case, this was a completely unexpected situation. Excellent Era's fans, who had wilted a little, sprung back to life then. Having been taunted by 7 fields, they immediately retorted. Excellent Era's fans had far more people. This counterattack almost drowned Happy's small cheerleading squad in yells. See that? That's Excellent Era for you. So what if they lost their healer? Can you endure our one-wave rush? The Excellent Era fans, who sat close and had thus almost been hit in the head by 7 Field's excited gesturing, jumped up to shout his revenge, shoving their heads towards 7 Field. As for 7 Fields and the others, they were too nervous to care about arguing with Excellent Era's fans. Hold on. The 53 Happy Guild members clenched their fists as one, almost seeming to hear the inner voices of their comrades. Hold on. How would Happy deal with this? Those who wondered all looked to Lord Grimm. Yi Shu should take command by now, right? If he just let these rookies do whatever they wanted, they would only get led around by the nose by the experienced Xiao Shiken. Out of all of Happy's players, only he had the ability to match Xiao Shiken in tactics. Yet he said nothing. In this crucial moment, he didn't give any orders, letting the members of Happy act according to their own judgments. Excellent Era's 4 players advanced, but Soft Mist, with only 20% of her health left, had no intentions of backing down. Attack! At Xiao Shiken's command, the 2 battle mages charged forward and the 2 gunners provided firepower coverage from afar. Missed. Xiao Shiken was stunned. They had to wipe their target off the field in a single wave of attacks, so everyone had to be careful to not only deal damage, but also entrap their target, cutting off all of Soft Mist's paths of retreat and not letting her escape. Yet now, their entrapment seemed miles away from Soft Mist. This was because neither Xiao Shiken nor Wang Zi, nor Sun Shang and Chu Fei had thought Tang Ru, when faced with this situation, wouldn't choose to dodge or back down, but to charge forward. Dragon breaks the ranks. Soft Mist unhesitantly charged forward with her 20% of health. Xiao Shiken cried internally, we bloody know you're an aggressive player already, but there's got to be a limit. You're charging forward in a situation like this? Do you take us for helpless grass? Chapter 1044. The Last Drop of Blood. Soft Mist's dragon breaks the ranks stirred up the entire stadium. The commentator, Pan Lin, could only give a long "oh" before becoming silent. Despite facing 4 members from Excellent Era all by herself, Soft Mist dared to rush ahead with more vigor and initiative than before. This girl, does she even understand the situation she's in? Many people wanted to make fun of Tang Ru's suicidal action. However, everyone was stunned the very next second when they saw Soft Mist's dragon breaks the ranks get past the suppression of the 2 battle mages, 1 autumn leaf and combat form, and arrive in front of the 2 long-ranged gunners. This seemed like a situation where Tang Ru was walking right into a trap. If anyone in Excellent Era had been prepared, they could have gotten rid of Soft Mist right away. The problem was that they hadn't been. Whether it was the master tactician Xiao Shikan, the new generation's godson Shang, or the talented rookie Chu Fei, none of them expected Tang Ru to be so fearless. At the time, no one could determine whether her courage was deserving of praise or extremely foolish. Soft Mist spear swept around in a circle, and the two long-ranged gunners were forced to retreat. As they dodged, they lifted their guns and started to shoot. One autumn leaf in combat form spun around to pincer Soft Mist. The four from Excellent Era adjusted extremely quickly. However, Tang Ru's unexpected move still managed to disrupt their rhythm. They surrounded her again, but it wasn't as perfect as the previous wave, regardless of whether it was their positioning or rhythm. Their encirclement might have been enough for normal players. Unfortunately, for Happy's Yi Shu, such a disorderly encirclement couldn't just be politely described as imperfect, it was filled with flaws. Matchstick. A message suddenly popped out from Lord Grimm in Happy's team chat. This wasn't a code word, Matchstick was the name of Wang Zi's sharpshooter. Although he had only arrived in the map not long ago and failed to save Excellent Era's cleric, he was able to set up a good foundation for Excellent Era's comeback by dealing a lot of damage to Dawn Rifle. However, he had now become Happy's breakthrough target. This was probably the first direct confrontation between the two teams in this matchstick. The four characters from both sides were gathered in the same area and each attacked their respective tactical targets. Happy is putting on a tough front facing Excellent Era's counterattack, Pan Lin cried with surprise. Happy had been deliberately avoiding direct confrontations the entire time. However, now their approach suddenly changed. When the four from Excellent Era surrounded Soft Mist, the other three characters from Happy valiantly charged forward to save her. At the same time, Tang Ru, who was surrounded, also carried out Yi Shu's instruction. 1v4. There was nothing that could make Tang Ru more excited. Her hand speed exploded as Soft Mist charged towards Matchstick. She swayed left and right at high speeds, dodging the incoming gunner attacks. One autumn leaf in combat form chased closely behind her. The two had nothing harassing them, so their movement speeds was faster and the distance between them continued to decrease. Dragon breaks the ranks. At this moment, time was the most important. It was a matter of speed. No one would save their high-level skills for later. One autumn leaf unleashed a dragon breaks the ranks towards Soft Mist's back. But Soft Mist leapt up into the air, shattering the lands. Excellent Era wasn't the only one who knew how to use this level 75 skill. One autumn leaf's dragon breaks the ranks brushed past her, missing by just a hair. Combat form had originally been planning on following up with an attack, but seeing Soft Mist use shattering the lands, he immediately made adjustments. The attacks from Xiao Shikan and Wang Zi didn't stop. Soft Mist was in the air now, so dodging was more difficult. She was struck repeatedly by bullets, and her health slid down. Her shattering the lands still came out though. Soft Mist descended from the air along with streaks of blood and fire. Her spear stabbed into the ground and magic waves lifted up the earth. Dirt and stone swirled in the air. A blaze of fire flowed out from the center, her spear's flowing fire effect. This type of high-level skill couldn't be taken directly. Chu Fei's combat form was unable to advance. Sun Jiang's one autumn leaf immediately dodged to the side. On the other hand, Xiao Shikan and Wang Zi escaped from its attack range, while continuing to attack. Kill her, Xiao Shikan roared. Soft Mist's ferociousness would fire up the spirits of anyone who crossed her path. Just when Soft Mist's health was about to hit zero, a white light surrounded her body. Small heal. Wah, what? Pan Lin was about to explode. He was just about to announce Soft Mist's death, but he hadn't expected Lord Grimm to cast a heal to save Soft Mist at the last second. Brilliant. This was Li Yibo's evaluation of it. Small heal had a cast time, so being able to time it so perfectly required extremely accurate predictions. It wasn't just a matter of hand speed. However, the heal was a low-level skill. Lord Grimm wasn't a healer and he didn't have healer equipment either. This small heal only allowed Soft Mist to not die in the last moment. Truly saving her from death was still far away. However, by prolonging her inevitable death, Tang Ru was able to attack once more. Soft Mist attacked Matchstick with a falling flower palm. Wang Zi didn't dodge. Soft Mist's hit points were at single digits. Instead of dodging, he might as well just finish her off. That's what everyone thought, so they all attacked. Suddenly, another white light flashed onto Soft Mist. Small cure. Soft Mist once again survived with a last-second save. Just from Soft Mist's remaining health, it could be seen how prompt the heal had been. After the heal, her health dropped to near zero. Soft Mist was hanging on with just one last drop of health left. But that didn't affect Soft Mist from carrying out her attack. Falling Flower Palm sent Matchstick flying away towards 1-inch Ash's 5 overlapping ghost boundaries. Steam Bun Invasion pounced forward and grabbed Matchstick in midair. Wang Zi couldn't even quick recover. Matchstick was sent flying. A huge gap appeared in Excellent Era's encirclement. Soft Mist immediately tried to rush through it, but Xiao Shiken wasn't going to give her that chance. Bullets rained down on her. However, a figure flashed and Lord Grimm appeared with his umbrella propped up, protecting Soft Mist completely. Soft Mist actually didn't die? No one wanted to believe it. Li Yibo was just about to talk about Yi Shu's 2 miraculous saves and their effects on the Matchstick. He hadn't expected that Soft Mist would be saved once again. Just one more attack, yet Excellent Era wasn't able to do it? That was just too unlucky. Yes, something so outrageous couldn't be from skill. It could only be luck. But this was just temporary, no? One Autumn Leaf in combat form had charged forward. Their 2 spears crossed each other at 120-degree angles, attacking Lord Grimm from the left and right. As for Soft Mist, who was hiding behind Lord Grimm, she was within their attack range too. Xiao Shiken's life extinguisher used a rotor wings to fly up and get around Lord Grimm's umbrella shield by attacking from above. They just needed one attack. How could they not do it? The 3 players from Excellent Era were confident, even if Yi Shu was protecting her. They didn't think that Yi Shu could protect her so thoroughly. Yi Shu couldn't protect her, but he also didn't bother trying. Life Extinguisher flew into the air with rotor wings and saw what Soft Mist was doing. He suddenly cried out in alarm. Careful. The warning was too late though. One Autumn Leaf in combat form had reached them. Lord Grimm's myriad manifestations umbrella retracted and a powerful magic wave surged forth. Rising Dragon soars the sky. Soft Mist only had just a drop of health left, yet she actually attacked. Under the cover of Lord Grimm's shield, this was a 2-player blind shield play. Sun Shang and Chu Fei hadn't expected it at all. By the time Xiao Shiken became aware of it, it was too late. Dancing Fire Flowing Flame turned into an angry dragon and flew out from behind Lord Grimm's umbrella towards combat form. Combat form had already let out his attack, but its priority couldn't compete with Rising Dragon soars the sky. He was chomped by the magic dragon. The magic waves coiled around his body and then exploded. Combat form took a full blow from this high-level skill. Sun Zhang's One Autumn Leaf didn't get hit by the sneak attack. Lord Grimm's umbrella greeted him instead. The umbrella strike looked like it was more to drive him away than to damage him, but Sun Shang could only get hit by it. He couldn't dodge Yi Shu's strike. If he did, he would be in the path of Soft Mist's Rising Dragon soars the sky. Wouldn't dodging over there be letting them hit 2 birds with 1 stone? Rising Dragon soars the sky wasn't just a sneak attack. Yi Shu used it to limit the opponent's space, allowing him to put in 2 strikes and knock one Autumn Leaf to the side. Life Extinguisher's gunfire rained down from above, but Lord Grimm simply opened up the umbrella, put it above his head. Using the umbrella shield in this way was the easiest. After all, wasn't that the original purpose of an umbrella? After taking care of those 2, he convened with Steam Bun Invasion and 1-inch Ash under the gunfire above from Life Extinguisher. It was like he was taking a stroll in the rain. Yi Shu had already casted a recover onto Soft Mist. Her health was slowly recovering. Even though it wasn't much, but to those in Excellent Era, it was like a stab to their hearts. How long is it going to take to get rid of that last drop of health? Chapter 1045. Interlinked. Recover healed over time in bursts. The amount of heal per burst wasn't much to begin with. Lord Grimm was a poor healer too, so each burst was even more dismal. In fact, even with these bursts, Excellent Era could still kill off their target in 1 strike. However, every burst was like torture to them. What's worse, Happy's cleric was most likely about to arrive. Even though that cleric skill wasn't amazing, in this situation, it was more than enough to be the deciding factor. Xiao Shiken suddenly felt a bit upset. After killing Dawn Rifle, they should have headed towards the support zone to cut off and maybe even kill the enemy cleric. Instead, they got into a tangle with Soft Mist. Even if she would die in the end, it was still embarrassing. The fight had already reached this point. Regretting now was useless. Soft Mist must die before the healer arrived. Xiao Shiken made arrangements for the team formation using just a few concise words in the chat. The battle mage duo, Sun Shang and Chu Fei, headed directly towards Happy's 4-player group. Previously, they had surrounded Tang Ru's soft mist, but ended up being attacked by Happy from the inside and outside. This time, Happy had surrounded Wang Zi's matchstick. It should be their turn to attack from the inside and outside. Wang Zi had just joined the battle. His matchstick was at full health. He wasn't panicked despite being surrounded by Happy. This time, Excellent Era's rescue operation came quickly. One autumn leaf in combat form charged forward ferociously. They weren't in a hurry to rescue Matchstick. Their target was still Soft Mist. Soft Mist only had a sliver of health left. It was already a miracle that she was alive. Without a healer, focusing their attention onto protecting her was actually a huge burden for Happy. However, Happy didn't protect her. Soft Mist charged at them with just 20% of her health left. Later, she only had a drop of health left, yet she and Lord Grimm coordinated together to strike combat form with a rising dragon soars the sky. Soft Mist's existence had become a huge hindrance to Excellent Era's plans. She was like bait, controlling Excellent Era's goals. Not only did she not become a burden to her team, she was using every second of her time on the field very effectively. Xiao Shiken was clearly aware of this issue. Excellent Era made adjustments. They didn't put all of their efforts into killing Soft Mist. While Sun Shang and Chu Fei charged into Happy's formation, Xiao Shiken's life extinguisher circled around from a different direction. What is he trying to do? Pan Lin and Li Yibo glanced at each other. For a moment, they didn't understand, so they didn't dare say anything. The orders that Xiao Shiken gave in chat didn't really convey what he was planning on doing. Life extinguisher was making every second count. As he sprinted, he observed Happy's movements. When he realized that no one was paying attention to him, there seemed to be some hesitation to Life Extinguisher's movements. At this moment, everyone finally understood Xiao Shiken's intentions. They couldn't help but think of a popular verse from many years back, as the last to know the truth, my tears fall. Yes, Xiao Shiken's Life Extinguisher had been planning on intercepting Happy's cleric, but the problem was that he had gone in the wrong direction. The spectators had an omniscient view, so from the beginning, they knew which support zone Little Cold Hands had swapped in from. It wasn't the closest support zone. At that time, everyone felt confused, but now everyone understood that swapping in from the closest support zone was too easy to guess. Happy had made preparations for it. They were very careful about maintaining their healer advantage. Xiao Shiken had Life Extinguisher run towards this direction for a while, but having not seen any signs of Little Cold Hands, he felt like something wasn't right. From his calculations, he should already be able to see the cleric. However, he didn't. That at least meant that the other side had been ready for his interception, whether that was taking a roundabout route or coming from a different support zone. Another judgment error made Xiao Shiken feel exhausted. He realized that he was unable to grasp Happy's thinking. He understood Yi Shu, but the Yi Shu that he understood was the Yi Shu leading a powerhouse. But the Yi Shu he was facing now was a Yi Shu leading a grassroots team displaying more complex strategies. From time to time, Yi Shu would show the craftiness of small teams, while showing the oppressiveness of top teams. Just take this choice of support zones. From Xiao Shiken's experience of leading a weak team, entering from the closest support zone was a necessary choice because a weak team needed a healer to hurry and help them maintain their advantage. However, Happy just had to be bold and actually had their cleric take a longer path. Xiao Shiken had never had this type of confidence when he led Thunderclap. In the end, is it because I'm not confident enough? When I was on Thunderclap, had I ever thought of leading the team to win the championship? No, never. The outside world had always believed Thunderclap to be a weak team. Just being able to make into the playoffs every year was a huge success. As a result, Thunderclap and even Xiao Shiken had always thought so as well. Their goal every year was to make into the playoffs. As for the playoffs itself, they didn't have any high ambitions. They clearly thirsted to be champions, but they never believed in themselves nor aspired to be number one. In the end, Xiao Shiken left Thunderclap to be a champion. Even though no one criticized him for it and even thought it was something he should have done earlier, Xiao Shiken finally understood that he himself was weak. He hadn't believed in his teammates or himself. There was too big of a difference between himself and his opponent. Yi Shu was leading a team scraped together from an internet cafe, yet he dared to join the Challenger League and challenge a powerhouse like Excellent Era. How many had laughed at him? But now, this joke was turning into a reality step by step. But him. Although Team Thunderclap repeatedly beat the stronger opponent, he had never been confident in himself. Why had he never been confident? Thunderclap was able to win over strong teams in the regular season, so why couldn't they repeat that same performance in the playoffs? If they just repeated it 3 times, then wouldn't Thunderclap become the champions? In the end, he had only been confident in the matches he should have won. However, Yi Shu had the confidence and courage to create miracles. Xiao Shiqin's life extinguisher swiftly returned to the battle. The situation had already changed. Soft Mist was finally killed. Tang Ru wouldn't let herself become a burden that the entire team needed to put all of their efforts into protecting her. Even if she only had just a drop of health left, she would still fight and contribute to the team. After one last final struggle, she fell. In that instant, the stadium erupted into applause. Even Excellent Era's fans chose to remain silent. In this life and death situation, they were unable to give any applause to the enemy team, but they at least stayed silent to show their respect. In the group arena, Tang Ru lost miserably. But in this team competition, she finally left a deep impression on everyone. Although it was hard to tell at times whether her performance was bravery or stupidity, her brave or stupid performance was a crucial factor in Happy reaching this point. During the period of time it took Xiao Shiqin to run over in an attempt to block the healer, Excellent Era's 3 players were able to successfully kill Soft Mist, but they also suffered a blow, especially Wang Zi's matchstick. He had been pincered by Steamed Bun and Chao Yifan from the start. Later, Lord Grimm came over to join in while protecting Soft Mist. Team Happy's focus wasn't to protect Soft Mist, but to continue targeting Matchstick. 1-inch Ash's ghost boundaries were extremely effective defenses. If one Autumn Leaf and Combat Form wanted to attack Happy, they had to go into the ghost boundaries. If they didn't, they could only just wait and watch as the other side besieged Matchstick. There were ways to break through the restrictions from ghost boundaries, but in general, ghost blades were difficult for one Autumn Leaf and Combat Form to deal with. Wang Zi's matchstick only had limited support. He himself wasn't able to break out of the encirclement either. When Xiao Shiqin's life extinguisher arrived, Soft Mist was already gone, but Matchstick was facing imminent danger. When Xiao Shiqin returned and saw the negative debuffs on the 2 battle mages, he felt helpless. Ghost blades generally had a hard time affecting long-ranged classes, but he just had to be a mechanic. Many of his gadgets had no way of breaking through ghost boundaries, so for a mechanic, breaking through a ghost boundary was very difficult. If not, Xiao Shiqin would have had someone else block the cleric, while he stayed. It wasn't like the 2 battle mages couldn't separate from time to time. And now because of the existence of the ghost boundaries, they had no way of displaying their full strength. Their sharpshooter, which wouldn't have been affected much by the ghost boundaries, had been snatched away by the other side long ago. Xiao Shiqin didn't believe this to be a coincidence. This match gave him a completely new understanding of how terrifying Yi Shu's strategies were. All of his tactics were interlinked, each step taken was a step closer to victory. Every one of Team Happy's members were utilized to the limit. From Wu Chen's Dawn Rifle to Tang Ru's Soft Mist and now Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash. I have to find a way to get rid of this Phantom Demon. No, wait. Xiao Shiqin was thinking of a countermeasure, when a light suddenly lit up in his head. Phantom Demon. Their next target should be this Phantom Demon, but if they did that, wouldn't they fall into Happy's trap again? From the very start of this match, Happy's members revealed their talents one after the other, which Excellent Era locked onto. Then, they were put into a difficult spots because of these targets. Yes, so it's like that. The key to Happy's strategies lies here.